want to share a little bit with you about our journey and why we're here today. Several years ago, we relocated to Melbourne for my husband's work. Jith is an interventional cardiologist, and he completed his PhD in specialty training there. We made a lot of close friends in Melbourne, and we watched them dream, plan, and start a Pared New Zealand, a Pared school in Melbourne called Harkaway Hills College. And currently this school which grew from a few children, now has over 300 students. We fell in love with Harkaway. So when the opportunity came up for us to come back home 7 years ago, after 7 years in Melbourne, we were really torn. To stay in Australia where we had, a great opportunity with work and money and a great school, or to move back home to a great job, less money, and no school like it. So we prayed a lot. And in the end, our Lord made it very clear to us that we had a job to do, and that was back home in Auckland. So that's why we're here today. We were lucky enough to closely witness the establishing of this school in Melbourne, and what we saw was amazing. What the impact these schools had on these children and these families was incredible. And we have a strong sense of mission to share the same model with our family and friends in New Zealand.
So when we got back in 2016, we obviously spoke a lot about these schools to our friends and family. And the initial reception we got was one of, wow, can't we have one of these in our neck of the woods as well? There's a strong sense that actually we want something similar in our neck of the woods. So we stand here today in response to those conversations. This is a response to the needs and the desires of parents and families that have expressed those desires to us. And I want to reiterate that this is a very personal initiative. This is an initiative of New Zealand-based parents and families. This is completely Kiwi in origin.
Hundreds of these schools around the world. What's their common thread? They were inspired by the teachings and spirit of St. Josemaria, the founder of Opus Dei, who really encourage parents to properly live out their responsibility as the primary educators of their child. It doesn't mean that mums and dads are teaching maths and English, that parents, Catholic parents, are primarily responsible, actually all parents are primarily responsible for the upbringing of their children. And to have schools, parents putting together schools which really support that function, so that the school and parents are united. So, the most basic notion is that as children grow up, if they're hearing something different from home as from what they're hearing at school, children are confused. If they hear the same type of message, doesn't have to be the exact, okay, this is my favorite color, etc., but the most essential ideas in life, if that's common, then they grow up in a stable environment and gives them the formation that prepares them for their future life as adults in a challenging world, and that world is becoming more challenging. So in a sense, the need for these schools is even greater. So there's hundreds of these schools around the world.
Is like a think tank of the Pared Foundation. So we kind of operate in 3 levels. We take care of the Pared schools mainly through the care of the students, the teachers, mentors, and also the formation of parents. So our real mission is formation.
Right at the very start line of this journey, and so this is today we're just lining up at the start line of a marathon. And the first thing is we need to gather some information, do some market research, so to speak, try and understand what the demand is here for a school. So I think initially what we would, if there was adequate demand, so the type of steps that we're thinking about here is we first understand what people want, whether there's a sufficient demand for this type of school. Then when we have an idea of whether or not it is something that is feasible, we would then consult our local bishop and see whether this type of school would fit in with his plans and his vision for the diocese. And if it does, then the next step would be to approach government and try and obtain a charter school agreement. That effectively, in the New Zealand context, would mean that it would be sort of like a private school funded by government. Because we, as Eugene mentioned, we don't want it to be an impediment. A family's socioeconomic status should never be an impediment to access to one of our schools. So, as you can see, there are a number of different challenges and a number of different bridges to cross before we can say where the school would be, or what sort of school it would be, a girls' school or boys' school. But theoretically, I would think that we would be aiming to have very so not too ambitious a goal, and something that we would like is simply a small primary school that starts off being co-ed, and if we have sufficient support, we would like to very early on have two separate schools so that we could offer single-sex education from primary school, which is sort of a gap in the market, at least in Auckland as well. So, as I said, nothing we would do would detract or diminish the role of any existing schools.